Hey, Richie Smith from LensWizard.com, and you want to know how to export. Maybe you have exported, maybe you've not exported anything, but maybe you have exported and it didn't go right, didn't go the way you wanted to, or if you just want to see what what more options are available when you're exporting, let's dive right in. So I got these wedding images, and our goal here today is just to export one specific image that we can use to either print, or we can maybe put it up to social media. Maybe we want to post it to Facebook, or we want to send it out on Twitter or something like that, or maybe we want to send it over to our phone for a wallpaper, something like that. So I'm going to choose this wedding cake right here. I'm going to open this up. Now the image is edited, but if I was editing this image, I'd be over here in Develop, and it's all right if you want to export right straight from the Develop module as you're editing each image. Sometimes I only have one or two in a couple different places. I edit them, and I'll just send one out at a time right from Develop. But for all intent purposes, we're going to stay over here in Library, because I'm going to come back and show you afterwards how to export a couple of images. It's kind of very easy and similar to the way you export one, but let's just export one image for right now. So we have our image selected. It's highlighted down here. You don't have to be in full window. You can be in grid if you want to be in the grid view, but as long as you have it selected. Okay, so now go to the upper left hand corner and you will see File, and you come down to Export, and as you see, you have a few different options. But if you look over here, you see on Export, you will see Control-Shift-E, and that is your keyboard shortcut. And if you've seen my other videos, you know I'm all about using keyboard shortcuts and teaching them right at the beginning, because they make life a whole lot easier. That's why they're there, and that's why they're called shortcuts. So on a PC, it's going to be Control-Shift-E. It's like stair steps. Go right up. It will open up this dialog window, and I guess you would call it an interface more than a window. So it opens this up, and we go right up here to the top, and it says email. Well, I don't want to send it in an email, at least not right now. What I want to do is I want to save it to a folder on my hard drive, whether it's on my system drive like my C drive, or if I want to save it to an external hard drive. So we click on this, we open up, and we see hard drive listed. We also see CD and DVD if we wanted to burn it and save it on a disk. And then these options down here are specific to my system, so you probably wouldn't see these unless you had these plug-in software plugins on your system. So let's choose hard drive, and when you open this, you might already have hard drive chosen, because that, I believe, is the default. So now we go down and we have these different drop down windows, or panels if you want to call them. So yours might be closed. Make sure you open them up and explore and see what's inside. So we got export, and it's got the location. What do we want to do? Specific folder? Yeah, I do. I know exactly where I want to put it. I want to put it on the M drive in the folder that's marked 16 Facebook. Now I've already chosen this, but if you clicked on this, this would bring up, and I think you kind of get the idea. Most people get the idea of how to choose a folder, because there's several programs that we use in our life on a computer that makes us go. I mean, same as if you were posting to Facebook. You click and you go hunt for it. Hopefully you can find it. And anyway, so you choose your folder. Now, do I want to put it in a subfolder? Well, for this image, no. I have just one image that I want to export, but now, honestly, if I was exporting maybe several of these wedding images, maybe I'd want to put it in a subfolder. Maybe I'd want to, this was a long wedding, so maybe I'd want to put down, the actual ceremony, put those down into one subfolder, and maybe the reception in another subfolder. So it gives you an option, and if you want to do that, you click here and you name your subfolder, and it will appear in this folder. So add to catalog. Sure, I want to add it to this Lightroom catalog so that I can go and find it over here in Lightroom later if I need to. And if we go on down, we have file renaming. Now I'm not going to touch too much on file renaming because quite honestly I don't do a lot of file renaming, at least not at this point. I might do it on import, but not so much on export. But it's there if you need it, and it gives you your options for that. Video doesn't really pertain to this, so we're not really have to worry about that. File settings. Now this is kind of important. We want to choose a JPEG, but we do have the option. We can output it as a Photoshop file, a PSD, a TIFF, a DNG, which is a digital negative, and or we can put it out as the original. Okay, so we chose a JPEG. Small color group. You have your other color groups here, and you even have other. But for output, I choose small color group. Now I might work in Pro Photo or one of these other ones in Photoshop, but when it comes down to putting it up, like say onto the web, I go with small color group because sometimes you could have an issue with some color shift and changes if you try to post, like say, the Pro Photo up to the web. Maybe you wouldn't have a problem. I have had problems, so I play safe. I stick with that. Limit my file size. Okay, if I'm just putting this up on social media, I want to save a little bit of space. I'm not going to make a big file for this. If I don't click this, it lets me choose my quality up here, and it's going to make a larger file. It's going to output it at its normal size. So I stick with, just to be safe, sometimes I'll even drop this down to 2000. So now we go down to how big do we want it to be as far as on the web. 1500 pixels on the long side. You do have other choices in here. You can actually output it at specific dimensions, and this can be pixels, or if you want, you can change this over to inches and put in specific inches. So you have, it gives you options here. But for myself, I want to go with the long edge, and I want to go with, let's see, get into pixels here, 1500 is where I want to be. Now resolution, this is one that some people don't understand, or they just don't know about, and that is, if I'm just putting it up on the web, where I'm going to view it on a computer screen, and everybody else is as well, or I'm going to send it over to my phone, or even if I'm just going to look at it in my screensaver, maybe on my desktop, I don't need to have a high resolution. I can go down as low as 72 ppi, that's pixels per inch. So I go a little bit higher. Some people go to 96. I like to go to 120. I have a little bit of an idea behind that, and that's just as in case technology changes a little bit down the road, that I won't have maybe a dingy or a blurry photo. So we go up to 120 on the PPI. You got sharpening for screen. I mean, obviously it's going on the web, this particular image, so I usually leave this set at standard. Metadata, not too concerned about this. Facebook's going to strip everything out of it anyway. Watermark, I do want my watermark in there, and actually I want that watermark. Okay, if you have watermarks, now I've made many watermarks for many different purposes, so I have all of these listed. But if you don't have any of that in there, which most people won't if you're a beginner, you're going to have just simple watermark. So you can choose to put a watermark in or not put a watermark. Okay, and hey, I've done a whole tutorial, a 2-part tutorial on how to put the watermarks in, also how to make your own watermark over in Photoshop and bring the graphic over here. And just real quick, I'll take you over. If we click on watermarks and we go down and click on edit watermarks, it brings up the image, and if I go over here in the upper left and I find my watermark that I want, you can see it places it in. And over here it gives you your options. Where do you want it? You want to move it around? Do you want to fill, make it big, fit it? But for the most part, I want my watermark to be like that. And you know what? I might, the opacity's good. So I'm done. Now, if I had edited this watermark, I would have to go over and save it over here. Like, actually, let me just show you that. If I move this opacity a little bit, okay, now it's considered that I've edited it. And this, if I try to hit save here, it's going to make me save it as another watermark. And I don't want to do that. I just want to save what I edited. So if let me just make sure that works right. Okay, so if I come over here, I can put update preset, and now I get done over here. That part's a little confusing, but you know what? I covered all that in another tutorial. Now, just so you know, I also covered this in the other tutorial, and that is, now that you come back, we're at February 28th, 2016, and for the past few weeks, Lightroom has had a glitch. Now, I'm sure Adobe will address this, but as you notice, I come back, I have nothing here. And if I hit export, I will end up with just a generic watermark that Lightroom generates, and I don't want that. So I come back over here, and again, this is a glitch. It's not supposed to be there. I should come back and see this. Now, if we come down here to post-processing, what do we want it to do after we export? It gives you some options. Show and Explorer. This is one that I like for this particular situation. What's going to happen is as soon as I push the export, it's going to write the file to the destination that I chose, and then it's going to open that destination up and let me see the image. And all I got to do is click and open the image, and I can look and see, is my, how does it look on my screen, ready to be put up to the web or to send off to wherever I'm going to send it. Is the watermark right? Does everything look good? So I like to choose that, but let's explore. We can choose do nothing. So if we choose do nothing, when I hit send or when I hit export, it will send it to the destination and it'll write the file, but it will not open. I can just move on to something else. And I can open it in Photoshop. I can open it in another applications. This is something that I created for Photoshop, a special post-processing function, I guess you would call it. But for right now, I want to have show in Explorer. And we're ready to export. So we hit this. If you look up here, which goes by quick, it exported it. And there's our image. It even highlights it in the folder. Double click it and we can look at it. We can zoom in. We can see, how does it look? Looks great. Okay, so now let's just close out of that, go back, and let's open that up one more time. Control Shift E. And first let me do this. Let me say, you know what? Seen something was different, and I had this yellow cast a little bit to the cake, and I don't really like that yellow cast too much. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to come into saturation, I'm going to click this, and I'm just going to pull that down and make that a little whiter. And I say, that's the one I want. So now I'm going to hit Control Shift E, and I'm ready to send it back to the same place. And I'm not going to change any of my settings. I hit export and another dialog box comes up. Okay, so it gives me a choice. Do I want to overwrite the image that I just posted? Or do I want to use unique names? Do I want to skip, cancel? So I'm going to use unique names just to show you. If I hit overwrite, when we go there, the image will be there and it will just be that one image. But if I hit unique names, when it exports, it comes up, and now you notice I have two images. And if you look at the end of the file name here, it puts a 2 on it. Okay, so here's my original image, and it has that yellow cast to it. And if I click over, here is my other image without the yellow cast. And I like this one better. But this gives me a chance to kind of look at both of them side by side and see if I like it. Maybe I made several different edits, and as you can see over here with Nick's lot, I'll highlight this. You know, here's this one. Here's edit number 2 where I kind of cropped in on this. They're the same image, so it gives you unique names, and that's what that is all about. Let's go back over here to Lightroom real quick, and let's say go to grid. G puts us in grid view, and I'm just going to go do this real quick. I'm going to say I want that photo, and I want that photo. I'm going to come down here and say I want that, and I want this picture of him, and I want that picture. Okay, I've highlighted those. They're my selections, and I want to export those. So it's kind of the same. It's going to be Control Shift E, but I want to put these in that same folder, but I want to keep them separate. So I'm going to put them in a subfolder, and I'm going to hit that, and I'm going to put favorites. That are really not my favorite images, but just for the sake of the tutorial. So I'm going to keep everything else the same, and I want to go down here. I'm going to hit export. You go up here and you see your status bar going across. Get a couple different operations going on, and there's my 5 images. And let's just look and see where it put these 5 images. First we'll look at the images. There they are. I really like that picture of that dress. So if we go up here, we can see it made a separate subfolder. So that explains subfolders. So now let's say, for all intent purposes, we wanted to print the photo. Maybe it's a photo we wanted to print. And what I showed you was about putting stuff up to social media. So, it's only at 120 DPI or PPI. So let's go back over. We got actually, let's choose the same image. It's the same image. Okay, so we're going to hit Control Shift E, and it's the same image. Now we don't want to put it into the subfolder, so we can get rid of that, and we can uncheck that. We don't need it in a subfolder. And what we do want to do is we want to change our PPI to 300, because if you were going to print, you would want 240, 260. I go with 300. Okay, and actually, if I was going to print, I might not choose 1500 for the long side. I might actually just leave it for what it is. Or if I have it set specific size that I want, maybe I want here I'm going to go into inches, and let me just look at this. Maybe we want an 8 by 10, and we want it on 10 on the wide side, and we want 8 inches. Okay, and obviously if we wanted to print, we wouldn't want a watermark in there. So now, with all these different choices that I'm showing you, sometimes it's beneficial to make a preset. And that's what all of these are over here. These are all my presets. I can close them down, but these are my user presets. Lightroom has some of its own default presets that it has. I don't ever remember how the Google one got in there, but that's in there. Photomatics. I'm sorry, can't talk today. But anyway, here are my user ones. Now, for example, I have a preset for Facebook. Now, when I click that, see, it changed everything back to the settings that I showed you the first time. And I listed it as Facebook 120. lets me know that it's set up. And when I come in here, maybe the last thing I did was doing something with X-Rite where I was making a color checker. And I just want to come in. I don't want to have to think about what to do. Just go right to this. It automatically brings up my settings that I want. And I already have here some print settings. So there you go. And you see if I click on that, actually I have it set up for the long side of 1500, 300 DPI. But let me just take this. We're going to set this up by 10 by 8 inches high. And again, it's asking, because I'm using the same file, it's asking me about unique names, and I'm going to hit unique. So there's my 8 by 10, and there are my other two, my yellow one. So I hope this helps you out. This kind of gives you a step in the right direction on how to export stuff out of Photoshop, out of Lightroom, and make just a simple JPEG. Now I'm going to bring it up one more time just to show you when you do export, you do have other options besides JPEGs. You have, I showed you this before, but just to remind, you have Photoshop files, TIFFs, and DNGs with the original. But again, I hope this helps you out, give you a little more direction. There is more stuff to be said about the exporting, but I think this kind of gives everybody a basic overview and gets them started in the right direction.